how has the war in Congo started? And how is the war in Congo going to? And we have this illusion about something that we call the international community. Well, I have bad news for you. There is no international community. Hello friend, my name is Amon Munyaneza. I have been in business for close to 30 years. I've also been a pastor of a local church here in Rwanda. I've been involved in investment. I've been involved in sports. I've been involved in healthcare, education here in Africa. And I find that the African continent is a very exciting place in this time of the world that we're experiencing today. There's a lot of things happening in the universe today, a lot of things happening in the world, a lot of exciting things happening in the world. We have artificial intelligence, we have technology, we have people going to the moon, we have space travel. Everything that you can think about is happening today all over the world. But when you come back here in Africa, we have a problem. And the problem is that Africa is kind of stuck in its history. It's like we have been frozen in history. I mean, I have traveled all over the world, really. I've been to Europe, I've been to America, I've been to the south, the north, the east, and the west. And you see that there is a lot of progress that is going on. But when you come back to Africa, you wonder, why does Africa look like it is stuck in history? We feel like we have been frozen by time. Now, some of you have seen and have heard what has been happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You know, there is a war going on in Congo, and it's been going on for so many years. And a lot of people are asking themselves, how has the war in Congo started? And how is the war in Congo going to end? Now, a lot of you have heard me share about value, about creating value. I have been sharing, saying that the world is about creating value. We are in the battle for value. We are fighting for value. Everybody wants to create value for themselves. They want to create value for their nation. They want to create value for their families, value for their neighborhood, value for the people around them. We are in a competition for value. But when you come to Africa, you realize that Africa hasn't really been able to capture its value. The value of our natural resources, the value of our fertile land, the value of our youth that are very talented and energetic, the value of our social demographics. There is a lot of value in Africa that we haven't been able to capture. And you ask yourself, why? Why hasn't Africa captured its value? Why is Africa's value leaking? We have a leakage of value. And when I say leakage, I mean that we are actually creating value for other people. We are taking our resources, our wealth, and we are creating value for other people. Why hasn't Africa been able to capture its value? And a lot of people say, well, you know, it's because of colonialism. It is because of because of the West. It is because of Europe. It's because of, they have so many excuses. But I want to say that until we understand that the whole world is in a war for value, we will continue to have value leakage. And not only do we have to create value as Africa, value from our resources, value from our wealth, we also have to defend our value. So today I want to talk about creating defensive measures for value. Creating defensive measures for value. We are not only creating value for Africa, we actually have to defend the value that we have created for Africa. And that's the problem that we've been having in Africa for many years, is because every time we create value, we are not able to defend it and build on top of it. So what is it that is creating value leakage? It is our inability to defend, to create defensive measures for the value that we have created. I mean, recently there has been a big conversation about the war in Congo. The war in Congo is not about is not about anything other than people trying to have value. You have people fighting for tribal value, for the identity value, for all kinds of value. That's what the war in Congo is about. But listen to this. Then you bring in countries like Rwanda, right? You know, Rwanda, small country that has been very prosperous, very prosperous. I mean, Rwanda has rewritten history in value creation, right? It's been 30 years since the genocide against the Tutsi, and Rwanda has been able to create value. If you walk in the cities of Kigali, you see how clean the streets are. You see the buildings and the roads, and the young people walking down the street, jumping up and down, enjoying life, singing songs, writing music. I mean, you find conferences from all over the world are coming to Kigali. We've just had the Inclusive FinTech Forum in Kigali, and so many other exciting things happening in Kigali. And then what happens? A few days later, Rwanda finds itself in a fight over the defense of its value. So that's when you understand that if we don't defend value, then value will be eluded. Now, Africa also has another big problem. Note, we have to create value, we have to defend value, but we also have to understand sharing our value. We have to share value. We have to exchange value. And I mean, there's a lot of organizations in Africa right now that are trying to create relationship between countries in Africa. But we have to understand that the international community is also out to create value. The international community is out to capture, to secure, to have value for itself. And we have this illusion about something that we call the international community. Well, I have bad news for you. There is no international community. There is national interests. When you talk about, when African leaders run to Europe, trying to look for someone to come to Africa and create, some sort of understanding between African nations, you're not inviting an international community, you are inviting national interests. Because in Europe we have nations, right? You've got all kinds of nations. And that's why, today, this nation wants to pass sanctions, and this nation doesn't want to pass sanctions. And then this nation is angry with that nation because the other one is not passing sanctions against this country. And then you've got the United States of America, fighting over Russia and Ukraine. One president comes and he says, hey, Ukraine is being exploited. Then you have another president who comes and he says, hey, Ukraine is actually in the wrong. So what are we going to believe in America? What does America believe about the war in Ukraine, right? Well, it goes back to interests. It goes back to value. It goes back to, this is not a conversation about Russia and Ukraine. It's about a conversation about what is in it for America, all right? What is in it for America? What is in it for Europe? So coming back to Africa and creating value in Africa, as Africans, we have to understand that this is our continent. We are Africans. And if we have tribal wrangles and arguments, we have to sit on the table and ask the question, what is in it for us? Right? So I want to tell you that if say a country like the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, came up with a factory that makes EV batteries, right? And it wasn't exporting its raw materials to Europe and China, there's going to be a problem. If DRC decides, if Rwanda decides that it's going to make, is going to make cells, it's going to make batteries from its raw materials, and now it's exporting finished EV batteries, you're going to have a problem, because you are going to eliminate a lot of industry from the rest of the world. So when Europe comes to be a go-between African nations, it's asking itself the same question: what is in it for us? So we have to remember that value creation is important, but defending value is important. We have to defend our value as Africans. We have to create value, but we also have to defend our value. So how do we defend our value? We defend our value by creating conducive political environments in which we can have dialogue. We can have conversations as Africans where we don't have to bring in the international community to know what is happening in our backyard. There is no reason, there's absolutely no reason why the African Union cannot solve the problems between the wrangles between nations. There are absolutely no reason why neighbors cannot sit down and talk and figure out, we are neighbors, what is in it for us? What is in it for our people? What is in it for our nation? What is in it for our future? There is absolutely no reason for Africa to run to Europe to try to report the neighbor. It's like two children who cannot agree on how to split a mango or how to split an apple, and then they run to their parents to help them solve the problem. That's not a sign of maturity. That's a sign of we still have a parent. So when we talk about independence, when we talk about Africa's independence, and in my next conversation, we will talk about Africa's independence. Is Africa truly independent? If we are truly independent, independence means that we can sit at the table, we can negotiate, we can agree how to split the pie, we can agree how to split the mango in our neighborhood. But if every time we don't agree on how to split the mango, we have to remember our colonial masters and invite them in the conversation and depend on them, then we are not really independent. So true independence is going to show when Africa starts to behave like we are creating value. When Africa starts to create, package, export value for value.